Hello, everyone, and welcome to Talk the Block, the podcast where we talk about the hit HGTV show Rock the Block. I'm Amy, and I'm here, as always, with my esteemed co-host, Steven. Hey, Steven, how you doing?
I'm esteemed.
Yeah.
That's how I am. Not steamed, esteemed.
You're esteemed. Yes, exactly.
Esteemed Steven.
Okay, in this week's episode, it's Season 5, Episode 4, Backyard Redemption. And we talked about this last week. How were they going to do redemption on the pool? Because they'd never done a pool before, so there was no redeeming the pool. But they found a way. They called it Backyard Redemption.
Yeah, Backyard Redemption. Or is it Coffee Mug Redemption? They all had these really weird coffee mugs. And I just realized something, and I know that it's probably obvious to everybody at this point. We haven't commented on it, but they have to wear the same clothes for every episode. It's really getting annoying, frankly, because I don't like some of their outfits.
Yeah, I think if you're going to be on Rock the Block, you really better make sure you like the clothes that you chose.
Yeah, if you make one bad decision, I mean, you're stuck with it for how long? However long it takes to film the show.
Yeah, at least 6 episodes, however long that takes. So, hey, in this week's episode, the challenge was that each team had to design their pool, their landscaping, and their 600 square foot covered patio. And in order to do this, the show has awarded them an extra $25,000, which they really need if they're going to do all this pool tiling and everything else they're doing. So I was glad to see that. Yeah,
it didn't really look like they were planning in their $250,000 overall budget to do this, given the spend that they had to this point. I think most of the teams at this point either had $40,000, $50,000, or $60,000 left. So, there's not a whole lot left, given that they still have the exterior. They've still got the ground floor, whatever they're going to do in the ground floor. And whatever landscaping out in the front too, right? So
and all the extra bedrooms too on the second.
Oh
floor.
yeah, right. Mm-hmm. They haven't finished the second floor yet. That they've got that room on the second floor. So they was kind of running out of money.
Yeah, no kidding, running out fast. So, conspiracy theory. Do you think that they knew ahead of time they were getting this $25,000 so they didn't feel so bad about the money they spent on the previous spaces?
I think it was a complete shock to all of them. They were like, oh my gosh, how am I going to spend this money? Oh, wait, we've already ordered stuff with it. Yeah, I think totally knew that was coming.
Yeah, I think so too.
Yeah, there's not a lot of surprises for the teams on this. The surprise may have been the repeat judges.
Yeah. We had the same judges that we had in the second episode.
Brian and Mika
Kleinschmidt. And they were acting like, oh, this is awesome. This is the second time we've had the same judges twice in a season. But we're expecting there was a last-minute cancellation. And since these two were in Florida and generally available, they pulled them in again.
Yeah, I think so.
Okay. All right. Hey, before we dive into what the teams did this week, Steven, I'd love to get your thoughts on what you're looking for in a great pool and backyard design.
I hate pools. What I'm looking for in a pool is a non-existent one. That's what I'm looking for. I can't stay in water very long. I've got a little bit of a skin condition. So I can't be in pools very long. I can't be in a hot tub very long. I can't in any of that stuff. I'm not the best swimmer, probably because I can't be in pools. I can't be in water very much. So aesthetically, if I were to look at a pool, I'd prefer it to be in my neighbor's house.
Okay, well, maybe you're not the best person to comment on pools. I love pools. I love a beautiful swimming pool. I love to swim, and I really love to float in the pool. So I like a pool that if I'm sitting in the pool or floating in the pool, I have a beautiful view I can look at. We had a pool in Seattle, and we had some lovely pine trees and what have you growing up, and I would just float and enjoy being out in nature, and it was really relaxing. I also like a hot tub, and I like a hot tub with the pool so that you can jump out of the hot tub if you get a little too hot, jump into the pool, jump back into the hot tub. And I like to have a beautifully designed patio. My sister's patio comes to mind. I love the limestone, the Tennessee limestone I think they have there. It's just beautiful, and it's cool on the feet. So again...
The Tennessee limestone that they have in Ohio that we don't have here in Tennessee.
Yeah, that Tennessee limestone.
Oh yeah, it's
exactly.
like the Alabama river rock that comes from Tennessee, right? They don't have the Alabama river rock in Alabama. It's river rock. Never mind.
The names are somewhat independent of the location. But again, I like that blend of beauty and functionality. If I want to have beautiful stone tiling around the pool, pavers, what have you. But I also like something that's going to be cool to the feet and not painful on the feet. Our deck in Seattle was like these little pebble rocks around our pool. And did not like that. It was tough on your feet. It would hurt to walk on it. So I like something that feels good if you're going to be outside around the pool.
Yeah, what we had really wasn't that bad. The problem was we have so many fir trees and they drop their needles, and then the needles get caught between those stones, and that's what would really hurt. It didn't get all that hot in Seattle, so it wasn't that big of a deal. But we have been in places where it is very hot, and having pavers that are going to reflect that heat is not really that comfortable to walk on. So yeah, looking for something like that, looking for something that's also a little low maintenance. But I don't want to be walking on pavers. You know, we lived in California for a while too, and everybody would pave their backyard, and so there's no grass. And I like walking in grass. I think a couple of the teams may have put some fake grass down, so it's instead of just having pavers or wood everywhere, because wood can also get pretty hot.
Yeah,
be uncomfortable to walk on when it gets hot.
I think a nice artificial turf in these backyards that they had on the show is a great idea because it does feel good to walk on. It looks good. And, you just have this little patch of grass, which can be a pain to have to mow and keep up. So, some of the artificial turfs today are so nice that I think that would be a great choice.
Yeah, and then I've never lived in Florida, so I don't know what grass does in the winter down there, but...
Well, apparently there's a lot of confusion about the climate in Florida because some people have multiple fireplaces, hot tubs, all types of warm elements in their backyard. And there are other teams that are like, this is Florida. No one would get in a hot tub. So it feels like it's a little schizophrenic. There's not clear agreement about like, hey, do you need fire? Do you need hot tubs? What would people use in the Florida climate?
Well, I wouldn't say plural teams. We have one team that thinks different from the others, and we've seen that in all these weeks. They said nobody has to have a fireplace, and then they put one in their main bedroom. Excuse me. Yeah, so they wound up this one team. Well, still keeping that a secret for now. If you've watched this show, you know who we're talking about. But anyway, so Brian and Sarah don't have a hot tub. Hot tubs can be nice because they can be therapeutic. They didn't want to put that in. Okay, that's a design choice. You haven't got to have a hot tub. They did a lot of fire pits. They're talking about how it's so hot in Florida, you wouldn't want a hot tub. But you would have a fire pit.
Have a fire pit, yeah. So we're not necessarily understanding the reasoning. It feels like
maybe they had a cold air fire pit. Yeah,
I don't know. And they also had a small closet because apparently you don't need much clothes in Florida.
Clothes.
So I think whatever design choice they make, they use the Florida climate to justify it, right? So they needed the fireplace in the bedroom because it can get chilly in the winter, but apparently not chilly enough that you'd want to use a hot tub. So anyway, it's a little schizophrenic in my mind.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, it seems at least they're consistent on being inconsistent.
There you go.
Their inconsistency is consistently. So.
Okay, well, before we jump into the designs of each team, Stephen, let's take a short break, and we'll be right back to talk about backyard redemption.
Wow, that was a great break. I feel so refreshed.
That's great, Stephen. I'm glad you had a chance to relax a little bit in the middle of this podcast.
Okay, so just a little inside baseball here. The platform Spreaker that we use inserts ads, and we figured out that it can put them at some weird places. Those of you that have listened to the podcast have probably seen that. So I thought, well, we need to find a place with some quiet where we're not just between thoughts. So that was that.
All right.
We're not planning ads, but we know we're going to get them. So.
Yep. Okay, and thank you for putting up with the ads. I think this helps keep the platform alive. But let's move on to the team that we were just discussing before the break, Stephen, Sarah and Brian.
Natural Zen.
Natural Zen. Okay, as we already said, Sarah and Brian are the only team who made the decision not to have a hot tub because in their mind, you would never use a hot tub in Florida. However, the judges who happen to live in Florida unfortunately really like their hot tub and use it all the time.
More than their pool.
So I think this decision not to have a hot tub was a pretty fatally bad decision for Brian and Sarah this week, given that the judges value this element quite highly.
Yeah, I think they made a lot of interesting choices. The patio space, the space under the house, that looked really nice. They made a big deal about this concrete bar top. They said that was one of their big splurges, along with a grill that you would normally find at Benihana.
Yes.
Who doesn't want one of those grills in their backyard? I mean, I don't know. It looked like it. I'm sure you can use it to do whatever. Right? I mean, I guess. I don't know.
I guess you could grill traditional American food on a teppanyaki grill as well as Japanese food. And I will say, I thought that their patio design came out really beautiful. They put like some wood on the ceiling to tie it together. They had that concrete grill. At first I was skeptical, but once they had it installed, it really was beautiful. It gave you a nice space where you could sit around and relax. And then they also had a kitchen, an outdoor kitchen with a refrigerator with the teppanyaki grill and space where you could cook and store dishes. So I thought that was really helpful. And then they had a nice lounge space there with a couch and what have you. So I thought their patio space was very relaxing and well put together.
Yeah, and they didn't show a lot of shots. It was a little different between the teams on what shots you saw of the patio area. I did count at least 2 ceiling fans that were on one side, so they could have had more than that. And it was interesting. Apparently they do believe it gets hot. They've got ceiling fans. It looks really nice. Some of the other teams did. Some teams didn't have a lot of ceiling fans, and I think that can be a big miss.
Yeah.
Yeah. That area, their patio area, did look really good. That one thing that was kind of interesting is how their pool deck area overhung the pool by about, I don't know, it's hard to tell, 6 inches a foot, something along those lines. So I don't know. I've kind of mixed feelings on that. The judge thought, oh, great, I can sit on this wood deck, which I imagine would be hot in the summer, and have my feet in the pool. Or as Brian said, you can dive off into the pool. So
yeah, but you could also sit on the side of the pool and have your feet in the pool. So while I thought the patio design seemed spacious and well thought out, I thought their backyard just seemed a little cluttered and disjoint.
Yeah, they had that one area with the fire pit that had this white curtain around it, and I'm guessing because you could really see it this week when they were, when they were looking out down the water, but kind of more to the right, you could kind of see all the different yards of the houses that are beside them. And so, I think the curtain kind of behind that little fireplace area was supposed to be something of a privacy area. Although it being white and it being outside, I can imagine, I imagine it have to be cleaned. I mean, but they put so many plants and such. It seemed weird that they would go away from having these trees, which they spent $4,000, right? $4,000 on trees. And instead of using trees and shrubbery as privacy, you've got this big white curtain.
Yeah, I mean, and they divided up their yard a lot. So they had this big curtained space with a concrete platform and a couple of chairs and a fire pit. Then they had their pool, and they had a big wooden deck, which I didn't find tremendously attractive, that was actually hanging over the pool, which I thought looked crowded, actually. I thought it made the space seem smaller. And then they also, what was the other element they had? Oh, they had those planters, and they had big planters where they easily could have had a hot tub. So they had a lot of concrete and wooden elements in this backyard, which at least from what it looked like on TV, it made the space seem smaller and more cramped rather than spacious and luxurious like their patio looked.
Yeah, I'd agree. It, definitely looked like there wasn't a lot of area where you would just be in the yard.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Mm-hmm. So anyway, that was Brian and Sarah. Let's move on to Paige and Mitch. And Paige just cannot get away from hanging things from the ceiling.
Paige and Mitch was last week's winners. They won by themselves. They got a bonus of $3,000 and spent it in the most odd, strangest way possible. But yes, we got this hanging daybed, a hanging daybed. I don't know.
I mean, it was probably relaxing, but a daybed, I don't know. I mean, it's better than what she did last year, where instead of having bar stools, she actually had swings that went up to the bar. So at least the daybed you would be laying down on. Probably, if you were drinking, you weren't going to fall off. So, I could see laying there, taking a nap, and maybe, the breeze lightly swaying the swing back and forth. I don't know.
Yeah, it's a bold choice. Bold choice, Cotton. Let's see how this plays out. One thing, if kind of jumping ahead a little bit, they spent their money on a screen and a projector to watch movies, and they put the screen by the garage door, which would be behind the daybed, and so if they were running a movie, see, the nice thing, if it was a daybed and it was not attached to the ceiling, you could move it.
Yes.
Yes, but this daybed is where it's at.
Yeah, and I think the idea of having some sort of projector or television that you could watch from the pool area, I mean, I would love that. I'd be out there in August watching Notre Dame football up there on the projector while I was relaxing in my pool. But there's no way you could see the projector from the pool area because you had this daybed in between it and it was not movable. So the projector thing, having some place where you could watch movies outside, not a bad idea. How they set it up just didn't make any sense.
Well, and now that I'm thinking through this, where does the sound come from? The projector? Is because they didn't have any outdoor speakers. And so it wasn't connected to some sort of outdoor sound system where if you were in the pool watching the movie, you would have the sound nearby. So I'm assuming the sound comes out of the projector, this one location point.
Yeah, it's a really interesting point that you bring up. Nobody talked about a sound system outside.
Oh, no sound outside,
and I
at
would
all.
think, if you had, maybe now today everybody uses Bluetooth speakers and what have you, but I would think a sound system around the pool or in the patio would definitely be a nice touch, and maybe that's how I would have spent the $4,000 or $3,000, whatever they got, rather than this
probably would have
sort
needed
of
more than
worthless
that.
projector. Yeah. I think the other thing that was weird about their patio is I didn't really see much of an outdoor kitchen area. I didn't see a grill. They had a cold plunge, but I didn't see any place where you could grill. There was a cold plunge and a fireplace, but no real kitchen area.
Yeah, and they never talked about one. I don't have anything in my notes, but it does stand out. I think they were the only ones that didn't have any way of cooking. They may have had a fridge somewhere, and they'd had to have table space where you could have food and such laid out, but no cooking apparatus.
Yeah, and you would think in a big, patio area like this, many families would want to use that area to grill and entertain. So that seemed like a miss. Yeah,
instead of using their $3,000 to put in a pull down, not an automatic, a pull down screen and a projector, buy a nice grill.
Yeah. Instead, they had the cold plunge, which I will say the cold plunge down on the bottom floor where it was near the hot tub made sense because you would want to go back and forth from the cold plunge to the hot tub. So from a practical perspective, putting that down on the bottom floor was good.
Yeah, and and they were on the same side of the area. So so it's not like you'd have to go very far to go between the two. Yeah, what would have been cool is if, like, when one of the teams, if they had a rain shower in between, so you could have the rain shower and you could run through the rain shower from the cold plunge to the hot tub, or vice versa.
Now, one thing that I really did like about their space that wasn't talked about at all on the show was this big clopay garage door they had that was pretty much paned glass, which would allow you to see out into the patio and the pool from inside. And also, I'm imagining you'd be able to open up that garage door and kind of had an outside-in experience extending the patio. So I thought that was a really nice element. Unfortunately, the wood on the clopay door did not match the wood that they had around the fireplace, did not match the wood on the daybed, did not match the wood on the furniture. So they weren't very consistent in terms of the wood tones that they were using.
Yeah, and you can kind of see that maybe the garage door they couldn't get in the right color, but when they were buying the furniture, all the furniture that was around the fireplace was a consistent color and texture. And then the wall behind the fireplace, because they had this floor-to-ceiling wall that they built in there, and that was another color. And the daybed was a very light color too. So it was, looking around, it didn't look like any of these things went together. So.
Yeah, and one thing that Paige and Mitch were really proud of was their checkerboard pavers that flowed from the inside patio out to around the pool. Stephen, what did you think about the checkerboard pavers? I can't say pavers today.
Pavers.
Yes.
Total miss. I thought that they were distinct enough that you would never not notice them. No matter how long you lived there, you would see this checkerboard pattern, and I didn't care for it. They seemed to like it because they showed a scene from when they did their work back in the previous season in Denver, where they had this chessboard out in the grass and the pavers there, which also looked really dumb. But I didn't care for it. I thought what Keith and Evan did, I thought the pavers that they used were really the most elegant looking of everybody. So I thought that was much better. But no, what Paige and Mitch did, I did not care for.
Well, it's possible that Paige and Mitch are really chess aficionados. This hasn't been disclosed. I will say, for me, when they first put down those checkerboard pavers, I was not a fan. But once they got the furniture in, and once I saw how it flowed from the inside to the outside with those same pavers around the pool, I thought that it was a nice look, consistent and classic. I agree with you, Stephen. It's going to be something that the homeowners are either going to love or they're going to hate, so could be a differentiator. It wasn't as specific of taste as, say, the pink sink and toilet that the twins put into their guest bathroom. But it was, it was a specific choice. It made a statement. At the end of the day, I didn't hate it. I thought it looked pretty cool.
Yeah, I thought that one thing I was looking for was view separation between them and the apartments, condos, whatever those. It's kind of an older looking building that's off, if you're looking their backyard, off to the left. And so they did put some landscaping over there. It looked like there was also something of a wall between their yard and Keith and Evan, and it was different from house to house. So it wasn't like there was a consistent theme there. All the houses had the very same spiral stair from the deck, from the patio area to the first floor, from the ground floor to the first floor. So that was consistent across all of the different homes, but the separation between the yards was definitely different. And I was really interested because, with Paige and Mitch being on the far left in the backyard, that they have the privacy issue with whatever is going to be over on that side. Brian and Sarah have to worry. I mean, they've got the privacy issue with the homes that are over on the other side, and then Keith and Evan and the twins are in the middle, so they're kind of, whatever the other teams do helps provide them privacy except from each other.
Yeah. And finally, on their pool in their actual backyard, they kept it simple, which I thought was good as compared to Brian and Sarah. It seemed, clean and not cluttery. They had a rectangular design with a hot tub and a sun deck next to the house. The chairs on the sun deck were situated so that they were facing the water. And also the chairs on the sun deck were close enough that two people could sit in there and have a conversation, unlike the next house we'll be talking about. So that was practical. And I thought it was a pretty pool. It wasn't anything like fancy, but in general, I would be happy to have that pool in my backyard.
So you had to cross to get to the stairs to get in the pool. You have to cross the sun deck, and with the chairs there, and then there's a bubbler in the middle, and then they've got an umbrella between the two chairs. I wasn't sure how you'd get in the pool. I mean, if you're using the stairs, so I thought that was kind of a miss. It looked just too crowded. I'm like, you'd have to go around the outside. It to me, it looked like they crowded the sun deck.
Okay.
They did have a bench in the pool too, which is nice. I think that was a common theme. Along one wall, the teams would all have a bench where you could be sitting in the pool. So.
Okay. Well, let's move along to Keith and Evan. I thought they did a pretty good job this week. What did you think, Stephen?
Yeah, they. I think they did a nice job. They wanted to maintain sight lines, so they had a couple of evergreens on either side of their property at the water, which did help focus, and then everything was kind of symmetric to kind of get your eyes going in the right direction. The hot tub in the middle of the pool on the backside, I think was good. Kind of got dinged a little bit for that because you got to walk around the pool to get to the hot tub. But they did a nice job there. The big thing was that they tried to have so much living space in the patio that they crammed so much furniture into this one area. Again, I'm not sure how you get in the area to get into the chairs. So that was the one thing. They did have a grill. Mm-hmm. And their kitchen area was really pretty, and they had it was weird that they had the judges called it this. They didn't call it this, a formal dining area. Mm-hmm. But all in all, I thought they did a pretty nice job. And like I said, I really liked the way that the stone that they used in the patio.
Yeah, I thought their stone was nice too. And Stephen, you're right. They really valued symmetry here. On the back of the pool near the house, they had stairs going down the middle that were sort of rounded that mirrored the hot tub that was on the far end by the water. Now, I liked the position of the hot tub by the water. I thought that would be very relaxing to sit in that hot tub, watch the boats come in. They even practiced doing that midway through the round. They sat in there in their unfinished hot tub and imagined what it would be like. Unfortunately, they put a fire pit right to the left of that hot tub near the water. And having a fire pit isn't a bad idea, but that fire pit was going to obscure your view if you were sitting down in the hot tub.
Oh,
so
yeah,
I thought,
that's right.
I thought
yeah.
it kind of messed up what was a very good idea in terms of having that relaxing space for the hot tub. Mm-hmm. The other problem I have with their pool design is in their desire for symmetry. They had stairs in the middle of the pool, and then they had a sun deck on either side of the stairs, right? So there was one chair on one side of the stairs and one chair on the other. So if you were out there relaxing on the sun deck with a friend, you'd have to scream across the stairs to talk to your friend. It wasn't relaxing in terms of just hanging out with a friend and having a conversation on the sun deck. So again, it looked pretty, but from a practical point of view, if I'm out on the sun deck, I'm sitting there with my sister, we're chatting, we're close enough that we can actually hear each other having a conversation, and having those chairs on either side, I just thought, unless you're sitting there by yourself reading a book, maybe that would be very relaxing. But if you were socializing, it's a little weird.
Yeah. Design over function.
Yeah. And I will say, the one thing the judge dinged them on, I thought was ridiculous. They had a very nice, as Stephen said, outdoor kitchen that went along the whole wall with a refrigerator and a grill and storage space and everything else. And the judges were like, well, you should have put art on this wall. And I'm like, really? Who cares? Because whoever buys it can put art on the wall that they like. You don't have to have one of Evan and Keith's homemade art projects up there to make that space. So, they could have slapped something on that they bought from Wayfair if they didn't have time to do their own design. But, not having art on the wall, I felt like was kind of a ticky-tack thing.
Well,
ding
yeah,
them on.
it did seem kind of ticky-tack, and it's hard for us to, or at least me, to sit here and say, gosh, they should have done art because I've been complaining about how much art they do. But I will complain about one of their art. Their art project on one wall was 3 baskets with towels in it, and the baskets didn't look like they were hung in any particular symmetrical way, which is kind of weird. But I can see the point of it's this big white wall and no decoration or anything, and it being that that's the kitchen, it's going to be a little bit of a focal point, and so having something up there, it hasn't got to be elaborate, but something to break up the fact that it's long white wall would have been it would have been an improvement, and they wouldn't have had to have done a lot. The problem, I think the problem comes in again on that when it comes to art, they have such a specific idea of art that they couldn't just get something that was very simple and put it on the wall because that's just not who they are.
Yeah.
And I kind of felt like we were running into that same issue that we have with them since they haven't a lot of experience, or their show, which is Bargain Block in Detroit. They specialize in getting the most out of the dollar, and even this massive 600 square foot patio they thought was huge. So I think we're running again into an area where they're just kind of out of their element, and they're not adapting, where they're used to not spending money, they're used to doing a particular type of art, and they're used to dealing with certain spaces. And so when you get into this, they're kind of fumbling. It's not. I think in some ways they still were successful with a lot of what they did, but like cramming all that furniture in there, they spent all this money on furniture and crammed it in there. They could have bought some silly, simple fern painting and hung it on the wall. I think it's just their choices kind of get a little weird, and I don't think they're adapting well. So
yeah, and now that I think about it, like had they had time and money, it would have been really neat to maybe tile in that wall or put some
they
sort
could have
of
used a
wood
checkerboard
design
tile
in the back. Something like that would have been really cool. I mean, I do agree the white wall didn't have much personality. I don't know if it was necessarily artwork that was missing, but
a coat of paint.
Yeah, limited time and budget.
Right.
That wall just ended up looking unfinished. So maybe that now that we've dissected this, maybe it's not so much that it needed artwork, but that piece of the patio did have kind of an unfinished look.
Yeah. I think that's the word, unfinished. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so let's move on to our last team. And there was a specific moment early in the episode when I knew Lindsay and Leslie were going to win. Stephen, let's see if you can guess the moment in the episode when I pegged them as the winner.
When they introduced the team?
No, come on. There
the
was
pool.
one element they did that nobody else did.
The palapa?
No.
Not falafel. It's not a food.
No.
The clope doors?
Okay, Stephen. It's the mosquito screen.
That's right. The mosquito screen. Because even though they don't live in Florida like Brian and Sarah, they recognize there are bugs.
They're on the water. They're in Florida. There are going to be mosquitoes. If you want to be able to enjoy this outdoor area, the number one thing you can do is put up the retractable mosquito screens. And when they said they were going to do that, I wrote in my notebook, winner, winner, chicken dinner. That was the winning idea for this episode.
Yeah, that was pretty good. What did they spend? $2,200. So given what the people's budget were, and some of the things that they spent money on, as far as quality of life goes, being able to use your patio downstairs, and going back to, was it last week when Paige and Mitch were going to have the screened-in porch off the on the second floor. Thought that was a great idea too, and then they went away from it because they had to have an outdoor shower.
Yeah, and Lindsay and Leslie actually did have an outdoor shower in their patio, which to me makes a lot more sense than having it off the master bedroom, because you're going to want to come out of the pool or the canal and rinse off. So just having a simple shower out there is good. I think they had the Clopay garage door, not with the windows, which I would have preferred, but they had a Clopay garage door into the interior of the house. So that, with the addition of the mosquito screening, would really allow you to get nice airflow, not just on the patio, but on the first floor, without letting a lot of bugs in your house.
Yeah, it was kind of interesting. I think all of there was in all of the houses there was an entrance, a large entrance. There was a door, a smaller door, and then there was a larger entrance. I think with Paige and Mitch, we happened to notice that it was it seemed to be 2 car doors length, and some of them it was only one. And I'm not sure if that was a design thing that the designers got to do, or whether that was part of the house, or whether I just kind of missed that. I'm pretty sure like Keith and Evans was definitely smaller.
Yes.
I think all of, and we had Clopay doors back in Washington, and we loved them. They were amazing.
We're not sponsored by Clopay.
We're not sponsored by Clopay.
But if Clopay is listening, we'd love to have your sponsorship.
Yeah. We love your doors. Clopay got their branding on the show, so obviously they were involved, and I think all of the doors were Clopay. They highlighted a couple other manufacturers. We didn't ever use them, don't know them, can't remember them. But Clopay, we're like, oh yeah, those are Clopays.
Yeah, and
a product of Ohio.
A product of Ohio, that's right. So I really felt like Lindsay and Leslie won this week through a lot of the practical features they had in their design, rather than the aesthetic of the design itself. Now, the aesthetic, we'll talk about that. If it wasn't bad, it maybe wasn't my favorite, but they had the outdoor shower, they had the mosquito screening. They had, they call it a palapa. It's really like a little mini cabana.
Like a gazebo.
Yeah, a little cabana by the pool, which I thought was a great idea, because, that way you can sit outside and have some shade by the pool, right? Instead of a giant sun deck where you're going to have that Florida sun beating on you. I thought having the little cabana-like structure was a nice touch. So they had a few of these nice touches that were smart and I thought very useful for a Florida backyard that some of the other teams just didn't do.
Yeah, and thinking back, I think it was last week when they were showing a balcony shot from Brian and Sarah. We got our first view of that. And it looked, I remember thinking from that shot that it looked really nice. So I think probably theirs was the least cluttered backyard, which I appreciate. They had that area for 2 as opposed to the big wood planking like Brian and Sarah. And, everybody has their own tastes and thoughts about things. And less is more for me. One thing I didn't like that they did, and everybody had to do landscaping and spent a certain amount of their budget on it. So with the twins, if you come out into the backyard, the hot tub was on the back right of the pool. And they emphasized that it was a waterfall. So the water would come out of the hot tub and into the pool, and you could notice that. And I noticed that in a couple of the others too. They didn't highlight it, but I think Paige and Mitch's did the same thing. They kind of showed a shot of it doing it. They didn't really talk about it. The twins called it out. But what I didn't like was on the back side of that hot tub, they put up a lot of landscaping. So if you're in the hot tub, your view of the water has now been blocked. And I thought that was a miss. You could still have the landscaping and put it along the side, but putting it in the back like that, you're blocking the view of the water. And I thought that was a total miss.
Yeah, I'm not sure I agree with you on that one, Stephen.
Well, you're wrong. I'm right.
I felt like it wasn't dense plants. It was more like palms and things like that. So I felt like you would still be able to see through those out to the water.
You can't.
And it did give you some measure of privacy, right? If you were having a relaxing time in the hot tub or maybe a romantic time in the hot tub, not everybody in the water would have like a direct view of you in the hot tub. So I liked that it gave
just your neighbors.
a little bit of privacy, while at the same time didn't block off. You have to admit it was better than the white curtain that the Baumgartners.
Oh, totally. Oh,
yeah.
Oh, yeah. I mean, they should have gone. I mean, they spent so much money on I think they said $4,000 on pine trees that they could have put them around that fire pit. The fire pit area in Florida where it doesn't get hot, it doesn't get cold. I liked what they did. They had all these round fireballs, fireballs. I mean, it looked nice. They had inside on the patio. They had a tiki bar and a grill. So again, they had a grill, as opposed to the Paige and Mitch not having a grill.
Yeah, they did have a grill. They had an eating space in there. And it looked like they even had, Paige would love this, a couple of hanging chairs in the very back. They didn't really talk about those, but it looked like there were some hanging in the back there, as well as having the shower and other elements inside the patio. So that was good. The one thing the judges dinged them on, and I think it was fair, is that their sun deck was next to the water, but the chairs in the sun deck faced the house instead of facing the water.
Yeah.
And that's a tough trade-off, right? Because if you're facing the water, you've got your back to everyone else, so if you're socializing or whatever, you got your back to everyone else. If you're facing the house, you're not taking advantage of the water. So I don't know. Maybe there was a way they could have worked it so that the sun deck was on the side or nearer the house, and so that you could be having the water view and not blocking yourself off from the other people who might be relaxing in the backyard.
Well, what they did get credit for was them being a really obnoxious color.
Yes, they were a bright red, which again is a design choice. Not everybody's going to love it.
One was yellow.
Yeah.
2 were red. One thing is different from the other. Three of these teams, one not like the other, had those sun decks and had the built-ins, and that I would not want that, because then that's something that's fixed in your pool, and that's what it is, right? I mean, I get that it's easier if you're going to sit in the pool and have your, and you want to lounge in the pool, that having it there already is handy. But I think it's something that just takes up room, that if you're that now you can't use that space for anything else. So I think that's not my favorite. I've got a couple of other general comments on the pool that on pool design now that I've watched the episode. But
well, I like the chairs in the pool because, again, I'm the kind of person who would sit out there. It would be cool. I could have my feet in the water and just relax. I do get your point, though, that it's an immovable object. I think maybe there's a market out there for lounge chairs in the pool that could be moved. I don't know how you would do that, but I'm sure somebody could design that. But yeah, it is, you either like it or not, but I think it's very popular these days. A lot of pools you see going up do have those, sun decks with the permanent chairs.
Yeah, and I think they only had one small ceiling fan on their patio space. Another thing they kind of called out was their original intent was to have an enclosed shower, and they wound up without having the money for it. And so their trade-off was to still have the shower, and but not have any enclosure around it. And I think that's fair. A nice little trade-off. Somebody can always come back in and put a wall. What you can't, what is harder to do, is to put the plumbing in and to have the rain shower. So they put the rain shower in. They did a nice design above the ceiling, and then below it was a probably teak, little wood stand where you would stand on, and then they had to have had a drain. So I think making sure those components were all there was smart. And then if somebody wants to put something around it like a white curtain, then you can have it there to keep from worrying about splatter.
Yeah. So the Twins get their first win this week. Go Twins. I do think they telegraphed the result quite a bit, in that the whole episode, everyone was criticizing their design and sort of low-key making fun of what they were doing. And the Twins kept saying, we have to win this one. We have to do this over. Everyone says that, but I thought they were really punching that up with this team this week.
everyone, not really. There was interaction between Brian and Sarah and the twins and Paige and Mitchell, and Keith and Evan, who was in the middle of that, just he made some snide. Keith made some snide comment about the checkerboard pavers, which I agree with, but they didn't seem to be interacting with the other teams.
That is true. They were less in the mix this week than the other ones.
Yeah. So wrapping up here, two things that I thought of that would have been, I think, an interesting thing to consider. Is we're talking about having the sun shelf and they wanted to have it close to the house. Nobody seemed to think that you could have the stairs entering the pool on the side. Mm-hmm. So I think that was something they could have missed if they still have the shelf at the close to the house, so you could come in. The other thing that was missing, which is very popular and beautiful, is an infinity edge. And having the view across the pool and having the water, I think, I don't know how much these things cost, but I'm sure with some of the money that some of these people spent, they could have had an infinity edge. And I think that would have been very valuable because it's just beautiful to look at. So.
Yeah, you could have done something like that, maybe with a little waterfall off the infinity edge down to the lower pool. Yeah, that would have been a really neat design. I don't know if their budget would have accommodated that, but that would have been a little bit of just added luxury in the pool design area.
That's right. Added value. We're adding value.
All right. So that wraps it up for Backyard Redemption. Anything else that you wanted to say about this episode, Stephen?
No. Why? Did I forget something?
No, I think
apparently I couldn't remember what you thought was going to win it for them, but you're right.
You thought so too when they talked about the mosquitoes.
Such a great idea!
You were in
my
favor.
gosh, yeah, absolutely. That I don't know if it was the winning move, but it's a smart move.
Yeah, I think it was the winning move for the week.
Yeah.
So anyway, next week we're going to have, is it called Exterior Redemption?
Well, they're doing the exteriors, so I guess we'll have to go wait and see. This week was supposed to be pools, and it turned out to be Backyard Redemption, not Pool Redemption. So we'll have to see if exterior redemption or some other clever little thing. Although I did notice that when the judges announced the winner, they didn't say it was Backyard Redemption.
They did say pool, didn't they?
They said pools last week, yeah, but when the judges said, the judges were like, oh, the backyard renovation.
Yes, they did not say redemption. They were off brand for
oh
this
my
season.
God, I can't believe they called them back. They're not coming back again.
That's it. We're not going to see them the third time as judges.
No,
That's it for them. Yeah.
Nope.
All right. Well, thank you so much for listening. We can't wait to get back to you again next week with Extra Redemption. And it looks like we'll have another second-time winner since every team has at least one win under their belt now.
Well, talk about telegraphing. 3 of the 4 teams have already won. And hello. Yeah. I mean, all they had to do was phone it in. Not really. But, as I said in previous episodes, the show is all about promoting the shows. And, in this case, I think they did a really nice job. I don't think that there was I think they won legitimately. I mean, I don't think it was just handed to them. They did a good job. So.
They won in terms of the value and the functionality they provided to the backyard. Maybe the aesthetic touches weren't quite as beautiful as some of the other ones, but I thought overall value, they were the clear winners.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. I think probably my least favorite was overall was probably Brian and Sarah, and then a close follow would have been Paige and Mitch. So that would, by default, say that my second favorite was Keith and Evan, and I think that's probably fair.
Yeah. Well, I don't know. I might have ordered them differently. I did really like Brian and Sarah's indoor area, but not their outdoor area.
Yeah, that's where it becomes tough.
Yeah. Paige and Mitch I liked better when it was finished than when they were talking about it, and I thought that Keith and Evan had a lot of potential, but not finishing that wall behind the kitchen and then plopping that fire pit right in front of the hot tub were errors that they could have avoided. So
yeah, and I think you kind of have to weigh some of these misses on how difficult it would be to recover, right? So not having an unfinished wall, you can always finish it. If you don't have an enclosed shower, you can always enclose it. If you don't do plumbing or you don't do, something that requires a lot of money.
If you don't have a hot tub.
You don't have a hot tub, then, and people want a hot tub, well, now you've really put yourself into a bind. So those, it's an easy fix to finish the wall. It's a harder fix to put in a hot tub.
Yep.
So I think when you're looking at the misses, evaluating, the implications comes into play there.
I think that's a great way to look at it, Stephen. Yeah. If it's easily remedied by the homeowner and it's a matter of taste, not a big deal. If it's something that's going to be super expensive to do after the fact, that's a larger error.
Yeah, like when the twins in the kitchen, when they had those stupid basket lights, at least they've got the lighting. They got the electrical. You can always take the lights out, put what you want in. But if you don't have the electrical, well, it's a lot harder.
Yeah, yeah. All right. Well, hey, we'll wrap this up again. Thank you very much for listening to Talk the Block. And Amy and Stephen will be back here again next week to talk about another episode. Thanks so much.